I caught my wife cheating on me with her coworker, but when I confronted her, she accused me of SA, which ruined my reputation and made me lose custody of my son. But 2 weeks later, my son sent me an email of evidence against her, and now her life is ruined and she is begging for forgiveness. The last few months of my life have been absolute hell. I would never wish this on anyone, except my ex-wife, who I have now begun to hate. She is the most evil person I have ever had the misfortune of associating with, and I don't even know how I fell for someone as wicked as her. Maybe it's something she does. She just turned off her evil part and pretended to be an angel for years. Maybe she wasn't pretending and she's now changed into a horrible woman. I don't know what it is, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but I need to get everything out. I haven't been able to say anything to anyone, and I haven't been able to ask for support. All my friends side with her over me, and it's all because of her. I, 44M, got married to my now ex-wife Pamela Pam, 39F, these are fake names, 15 years ago. We met at a club and hit it off from there. We dated for around 2 years and then got married. As far as I can remember, the relationship was great. She never showed any red flags, and even her family seemed nice. I can't say I missed clues about her true nature because everything was normal, better than normal. She got pregnant right after we got married, and we had a son, Oliver, now 14M, within the year. After Oliver was born, I noticed a change in her. It was slight at first, and I thought it was postpartum depression. That was a tough time for our marriage because I didn't know how to deal with her or her depression. I was willing to learn, but I wasn't perfect, and I admit that. In later years, she told me she felt unsupported by me even though she knew I was trying. Somehow, for her, it wasn't enough. I respected that. We talked it out, and I thought we were fine, but deep down I felt she resented me for it even though she always said it was in my head and she was over it. After Oliver turned 1, she told me she wasn't open to having another baby. She stated it very matter-of-factly, which surprised me because we had always talked about having a large family. There was never any discussion, though I would have wanted it. By then, I could sense things were a little icy between us, and I didn't want to make it worse, so I let it go. After all, she was the one who had to go through the pain of pregnancy and delivery. It killed me, the reality of having just one child, but I reconciled myself to it. If that was to be my new life, then so be it. I would adjust. Despite the initial roadblocks after marriage, we were a happy family. At least that's what I'd like to think. Pam had left her job after we got married because she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but once Oliver turned 5, she said she wanted to go back to work. I was a little hesitant because we didn't have any family around and daycare would be expensive, but we talked finances and realized we could afford it. She said more than the practicality of it, she wanted to work because she had completely lost her sense of identity and was in a dark place mentally. That was enough for me to drop any argument, and she started working again. Opposite to what I believed, her work made her livelier. She was more involved with Oliver. She was happier, and things were better than ever. I had always thought the burden of work would make her spiral, but it was the complete opposite, and I was very happy for her. I never knew this wretched workplace would end up being the cause of my ruin. When COVID hit, a lot of employees from her firm were laid off. It's a small local company, and it was initially mostly full of older people, but during COVID, things got bad and the company was acquired by a bigger firm that let go of most of the old staff. Pam thankfully made the cut, but her work turned remote. Initially, she couldn't adapt to the new culture at her workplace. It was very different from before, and she was always complaining. I even told her if she didn't like it, she could quit, but she was adamant about not wanting to sit at home. There was a hiring slump, and she didn't want to be unemployed. Gradually, she got used to the new work culture, and things were like before. Her office went hybrid 2 years ago in late 2022, and within 6 months they were all supposed to work from the office, at least that's what she told me, and I believed her. When she started going back to the office, things changed. She would stay late for work. She'd be very tired when she got home, and whenever I asked what was going on, she would only say the workload was a lot, which was believable and that's why she was always exhausted. Any free time she had, she preferred to spend with Oliver. It was as if we had gone from being husband and wife to roommates. Any attempt I made to address the issue or remedy things was met with complete ignorance. It was very frustrating, and I've been stressed and annoyed for the better part of 2 years now. I tried everything. I suggested therapy, we went on vacations, I tried talking to her, but nothing worked. She just laughed and said I needed to accept she was getting old and things wouldn't be like they were before, and she was so good at convincing me that I was actually manipulated by her. She had gaslit me so bad that I began to see myself as the bad guy for wanting to have a functional relationship with my wife, so I just let it be, at least on the surface. But all of this was eating away at me, and I had a sinking feeling something was wrong. I had no reason to suspect her, no proof, no evidence of foul play, nothing. But part of me knew something was wrong, and I had to do something to find out what it was. I hate to admit it, but I started checking her phone last year. For 2 or 3 months, I checked her phone almost every day. I thought I might find evidence of an affair or anything fishy. I checked her call logs, texts, emails, everything, but I never found anything. Soon it felt like every time I looked at her phone, I wanted to find something. At least then I wouldn't feel so guilty about doubting her. But I never found anything. After 3 months, I realized maybe I was being paranoid and it was time to take things at face value. I knew nothing was wrong in the sense that she wasn't doing anything, and maybe this was how couples were when they got older. It wasn't ideal, not by far, but there wasn't much I could do other than accept it. So for most of 2023, things seemed okay. I wasn't stressed and paranoid about her all the time. I wasn't overthinking myself to death worrying why she was behaving like this. Things even got a little smoother between us. We were spending more time together, and I finally began to feel the darkness was lifting from our marriage. Little did I know it was about to collapse. In February this year, I wanted to surprise Pam at work. I knew where she worked, and I decided to go over and bring her favorite flowers. I even confirmed with her that she'd be at the office, and she said she would. Well, to my shock, when I went there, the woman at reception told me Pam wasn't at the office. I asked when she would be back and she looked puzzled, asking what I wanted from her. I told her I was her husband and had come to surprise her, and I requested she not tell Pam I was there. She looked at me in shock and then her expression changed. That's when I knew in my gut something was wrong and this little adventure of mine wasn't going to end well. The receptionist told me Pam didn't work in the office Monday to Wednesday. She only came on Thursdays and Fridays. I told her Pam had been working in the office 5 days a week since COVID restrictions were lifted, but the receptionist, let's call her Amanda, told me the office had a hybrid policy and none of the employees were there 5 days a week. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do or where to go. I asked Amanda not to tell Pam I was there, and she assured me she wouldn't say a word. She also gave me a piece of paper with a car number on it and said I needed to watch out for it. I knew then what she was implying, but I didn't want to accept it. I couldn't bring myself to accept what was staring at me because that would mean the end of my marriage and the end of my life as I knew it. I thanked Amanda and decided to trail Pam for the next few days to see where she went. It took less than a week to find out she was having an affair. I saw her with a man driving to the same house multiple times, and I knew what was up. By that time, I was so done in my mind that I just wanted the nightmare to end. I didn't even bother confirming who the guy was. When Pam came back from work one day, I told her I knew everything and no longer wanted to be with her. I told her I wanted a divorce and she needed to leave the house with all her stuff within the week. She was completely blindsided. She started laughing, trying to tell me I was crazy and that none of this was true, but I wasn't having it. I told her I knew everything, and I was too deep into this to be manipulated. Now the only thing left was divorce. She lost it. I could see it in her eyes. She went bonkers, yelling and throwing things. She kept saying I couldn't do this to her, that she wasn't wrong, and she wouldn't let me leave her. She was screaming at the top of her lungs, and I wanted to scream too, but I didn't have the energy anymore. I couldn't do it. I let her yell. She tried hard to get a reaction from me, but I didn't give her that satisfaction, and she grew more frustrated. Finally, when she realized I wasn't getting riled up and she couldn't manipulate me, she straight up banged her head against the wall. I got very scared and rushed to stop her from doing it again. She tried once more, and I knew I couldn't handle her alone. I called the cops, and the next 10 minutes were the most excruciating of my life. She was behaving like she had lost it, and it's too harrowing to even recount. I told the cops exactly what had happened and said I was worried and didn't want her staying in the house with me. They asked if I had family around, and I said no, but then she said she'd go and stay with Mark, her affair partner. That suited me best, and that was that. It was a long night because all the while we were fighting, Oliver was in his room upstairs and he heard everything. Even though he's smart and mature for his age, he's just a child and shouldn't be seeing all of this. I had a long talk with him, and a lot of tears were shed. I tried to be as fair to Pam as I could. I genuinely thought the worst was over. I filed for divorce within the next few days, and Pam was cooperating, to my surprise. I still don't know how that made me feel. On one hand, I was glad she wasn't making it difficult for me, but on the other, I felt bad she didn't even put up a fight for us. She accepted the divorce so easily. It was as if she always wanted it. I had no choice but to accept reality. Little did I know Pam was spending every waking minute spouting lies about me and turning my friends against me. She created a narrative that I was the problem in the marriage, that I repeatedly assaulted and abused her and tried to control her, which was why the marriage was breaking down. She even said the bruise she got from banging her head on the wall was because I had held her by the neck and shoved her face into the wall. She spread these lies about me and used them in court. My reputation, my friends, my social circle, everyone sided with her. It was very easy to believe a man was abusive. I couldn't believe she would stoop to this level and turn every single friend of mine against me. I don't know why, but she was out for blood, and I knew she wouldn't rest until she had ruined me completely. In the custody agreement, because she claimed I was violent and a threat to her and Oliver, she wanted full custody of Oliver, and I had to pay child support. Oliver resisted, saying he wanted alternate weekends, but for some reason the judge ruled in her favor. She was granted full custody and I had visitation on weekends. I also had to pay a hefty amount in child support, which I didn't mind. I was just devastated she was going to take Oliver away from me. He was the only one I had. My marriage was over and my friends were gone, thanks to her. Oliver was the only thing I had left, and she was hellbent on taking him too. I tried pleading my case, but everyone had made up their minds. They decided I was the problem and she was the victim, and the ruling went accordingly. I didn't realize at the time that all of this would eventually help me. All I could feel was unbridled rage, nothing made sense and life wasn't worth living. Oliver was fed up with his mom, and I think when he saw just how low she could get, he lost all respect for her because 2 weeks later, he sent me something that changed everything. All this time, I had no idea who she was having the affair with. I knew his name, where he worked, they were co-workers, and that was enough. I never tried to find out more about him, but my genius of a son was onto his mother and her affair partner, and he decided to take matters into his own hands. 2 weeks after the divorce and custody were finalized, he sent me an email. In it were details that shook me to the core. The email detailed who the affair partner was and the fact that he was trying hard to cover up the affair because the blowback would be immense for both him and Pam. Pam had told everyone in the office that we were already separated and on the verge of getting divorced. Oliver overheard this while staying there and relayed it to me. The best part was that Mark was the son of the company's owner, so while that meant he was loaded, it also meant any transgression would be hot gossip in the firm, and the most wonderful part for me, completely disastrous for them, was that Mark's father didn't know about the affair. He certainly didn't know about Pam's divorce or the mess she created. This was too much ammo for me not to use. Had things been different, I would have wallowed in my own tears and let them be, but the mudslinging during the divorce process completely broke me and my social circle. Pam wanted to isolate me from everyone, including my son, so now I was going to get back at her. It could backfire, but at this point I had nothing left to lose. Mark and Pam were already having problems, but Oliver didn't know why and I didn't want him to get involved further. I told him he had done enough and now he didn't have to do anything else. It's a pity he put himself in the middle of this. He's just a kid and shouldn't be gathering evidence for his wronged father to frame his mother. I never wanted this for him, but I also can't help it. I tried to keep the family together as long as I could, but I couldn't go further with a cheater. I emailed Mark's dad with all the details of the affair, the photos, the proof, everything, and said I'd prefer if we talked first before he took any action. I'm going to wait a few days for a reply, and if I don't get one, I'll have to find other ways to reach him. I'm not letting them off the hook easily, especially not Pam. She needs a taste of her own medicine. She needs to know what it's like to be completely socially rejected. Update 1. Mark's dad finally replied to my email. I don't think it was him, but rather his team because the email sounded very formal and dry. At first I thought he was going to ignore it and I wouldn't get my revenge. He asked to meet me at a nearby restaurant after 5 p.m., but I worried that this would be a dead end and nothing would come of it. The email just said, "Mr. Anderson would like to meet you regarding your email." Part of me didn't want to go because I felt this was a dead end, but I made myself go and I'm glad I did because now things are about to get exciting. When I sat there, it was awkward at first. It had to be one of the strangest meetings of my life, but we gradually started talking. I told him everything I knew about Pam and Mark's affair. I was very detailed in how I found out about it. I didn't mention Amanda because I didn't know if Mr. Anderson was on my side and I didn't want her to get in trouble for trying to help me. He listened intently, asking a few questions here and there. He kept a straight face and it was impossible to tell what he was thinking. When I finished, he told me he'd take things into his own hands. I was frustrated and asked whether I should expect any action or if it would just be left as is. I told him if he didn't plan to do anything that was fine, but I'd appreciate knowing because I didn't want to hold out hope for any justice. My wife had failed me, the court had failed me, and my friends had failed me. I just wanted to know if I should expect anything at all. Mr. Anderson sighed deeply and said he understood what I was going through and that he would take Pam and his son to task. He said their firm had a strict no-dating policy and since Pam violated that, there would be serious consequences for her. He also said he had completely lost trust in Mark because he was tired of covering up his philandering ways. I told him even though I didn't like the guy, Pam and Mark had been together for 2 years, and Mr. Anderson told me something that made me want to both laugh and cry. He said Mark had a fiancée of 5 years in another city, whom he met Thursday to Sunday. All this drama with Pam was just that, drama. He was leading a double life, and Mr. Anderson said Mark's fiancée was a very sweet girl and he'd make sure her heart wasn't broken. He repeatedly told me not to worry and that he'd handle it. He assured me that while my wife, the courts, and my friends had failed me, he would not. I honestly felt so relieved after talking to him, and I'm anxious for the storm that's about to come. The anticipation is killing me but also giving me an adrenaline rush. As for Oliver, he doesn't know what I've done with all this information. He's a kid and shouldn't be part of this drama. I talk to him like things are fine. I know he's unhappy, and my repeated suggestions of therapy are being shot down by Pam, so I don't know what to do. I'm meeting him in a few days, and I'm thinking of quietly signing him up for therapy because he needs it. I don't want him to lose hope just because his mother turned out to be awful. He's too young for that. As his father, I'd have failed if I can't protect him from losing his happiness. Update, it has hit the fan, and I'm here for the drama. Pam called me asking if I could take Oliver for the week because something was up at work, and I immediately knew what was happening. I got him, and that's when it got fun. 3 days into having Oliver with me, Pam called saying she needed my help, that she had lost her job, had nowhere to go. I asked what she meant, and she said things were rough and she needed a place to stay. She asked if she could stay with me. I laughed and told her she should have thought about it before wrongfully accusing me of assault and abuse. She then said she had done it on Mark's insistence and was very sorry. Little did Pam know, I was recording the conversation because I needed the confession on tape. Once I got what I wanted, I sent the audio to some of our friends, and then the apologies started flooding in. I had already told Pam she wasn't welcome in my house. She might have reached out to our friends, but as far as I know, none of them took her in. If her situation is that she has nowhere to go, I think she and Mark have broken up. I don't know why, whether it's because of his fiancée or if Mr. Anderson did something. All I know is Pam is in a lot of pain now, just like I was a few weeks ago. Having Oliver back has made things so much better. We hang out a lot, and he seems more relaxed here. I'm going to talk to my lawyer about the custody agreement again because Pam has no job or house, so she can't take care of him. Moreover, with the tape I have, maybe I can get full custody of Oliver. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to stop until I get my son back. Update 3, I can't divulge much because the proceedings are still ongoing. Oliver has requested the court to allow him to stay with me, and the judge is somehow more receptive to what Oliver wants this time. My lawyer spoke to Pam's lawyer and said we have her confession on tape, and if she tries anything, we'll take it to court. Pam has been very cooperative, too cooperative if you ask me, and is trying to get back with me, but that ship has sailed. She's staying with a friend right now, and that's all I know about her situation. Serves her right, though. She needs to suffer and realize what she did can happen to her too. She thought she was on top of the world with her divorce, her job, and her little boyfriend. Too bad it only took a few weeks for that to crumble. She can spend the rest of her days thinking about how badly she messed up and regretting every decision she's made. I'm done with her.